we have a job to do that without it, we can't do that job. And everywhere we turn, the state is saying, you know, if you're going to have Title I teachers, they have to be certified in reading. If you're going to, you know, all these requirements of
Tell us Title I teachers.
Well,
I mean, define Title I teachers.
Oh, Title I is a federal grant program from the federal government, and I believe it's to help remediate students with
generally speaking, reading and mathematics.
Okay.
Yeah.
Qualified by income and other areas that would consider them disadvantaged.
Okay, so these aren't necessarily special needs kids,
No.
but they are
Typically, they're not special needs
Okay.
kids.
It actually got started, I'm sure you love education history, so it got started by Lyndon Johnson and his War on Poverty. That's how it began. And
Our producer, Dick Sentner, by the way, rates Lyndon Johnson as the best education president that we've had.
Might be so.
Well, he took these areas that we're discussing and put them on the table and got the federal government involved with, I suspect, a lower level of mandates than we're getting now. I mean, I think of NCLB and so forth as a mandate that's not commensurate with the amount of money the feds actually put. No. Last time I looked, the feds contribute about 7% of school district budgets, and yet the hand is rather powerful.
Yes. Well, go
ahead.
I think the example of that is that prior to my arrival here 5 years ago, the amount of money coming into the district for Title I was about $1.5 million a year. We're down to $500,000. So in those
in what time frame?
In
about
the
6 or 7
5 or
years.
yeah.
With what did you say?
Within 6 years,
Yeah.
it's changed that much.
Well, with more mandates is what she's saying. So, you know, we have more mandates to have more children succeed and pass MCAS and get their diploma through passing MCAS, and more MCAS tests every year, and no more money to do it. I mean, we were talking today, the laugh about the English language learner. Gloria and Judy are the two grant writers for the district as well. Gloria writes the federal entitlement grant for the English language learner education, and it's $27,000. You just heard what she said. Just the teachers, just the staff alone is over $500,000. And we're not allowed to use that money for anything that we're required to do.
Say more about that.
I have to let Gloria say it because she really has the experience.
That's a clarification we need.
If there is, Title III is a perfect example of that. You are required by law to provide English language development education for students who do not have English as their first language. And that period of time, you know, it could take anywhere from 5 to 10 years. However, you get these entitlement grants, you are not allowed to spend any of the entitlement on anything that's required by law, because that would be supplanting local services. So we have to figure out a way to meet the costs, that in this case about $500,000, based on our population, that it costs us to educate those children appropriately for English language development, and the $27,000 grant that I have to write, which probably could take me about 20 to 25 hours to write, and then follow up with various plans I have to follow, can be used for professional development, some materials, travel, that kind of thing. But it cannot truly be used to support direct student services, because that's required by law. So why would we use money to do something that we have to do? You're supposed to just have that money. And more and more we're getting these types of mandates where we have to provide things. I write a number of reports. Writing the grant has become the easiest piece. Measuring the impact of the grant and substantiating that through research, local research and student achievement and teacher participation becomes more and more what my job is, as opposed to really focusing on what we're teaching students, because that's the way school business is done these days. So
You anticipated me. Margarita, who Carol has met and Judy has met, Margarita asked me to ask, to what extent are the increasing bureaucratic demands impacting on what you really want to do in your jobs? And you just sort of answered that.
I am figuring between 85 and 90% of my time is spent answering all of the different legal mandates that we have to have. And that's not anything to do with special ed. That's the whole general ed piece of it. You know, whether we're talking about professional development requirements for teachers, making sure that we have mentors, making sure that everyone's license is up to where it needs to be, and if it isn't, what am I going to do to provide them with support in order to become highly qualified or maintain their license, because the law says that we have to make sure that we provide a no-cost option for every teacher to maintain their license. And if we fall below a certain percentage of teachers being highly qualified, then I have to write a plan to tell how I'm going to use the Title I funds to help move them along into that process so that they are highly qualified. And how am I going to measure their impact of professional development on student achievement? It just goes on and on.
So the funders, government funders at both levels, are fighting each other here. They're funding or mandating programs that are for student benefit, but they're taking you away from implementing those with students. In other words, your student contact is reduced 85. I mean, that's significantly reduced because you're satisfying bureaucratic structures, so they're defeating their own purposes, are they not?
I would say yes. I would love to be in the schools a lot more. I want to work with teachers, and I want to see what's happening in their classrooms, because after all, that's my role. I'm the director of instruction, and I should be
That's sort of why we
there.
went into profession, right? Yeah.
And you know, that's where I started. That's where my heart is. But instead, in order to keep some of these things moving forward, I have to be sure that we're crossing our T's and dotting our I's, and gathering whatever little funding sources we can to cobble together some of the things that we know we need to succeed. I think of professional development a lot. You know, if I'm going to be overseeing that, I might take, if it costs me $1,500 a day for someone to come in and work with 30 teachers, I might take $500 from here, and my general budget might have $1,000 here, and the materials that go with it can come out of this other little grant. I might have, you know, $500. So I'm constantly trying to piece together things so that we have quality professional development. We offer many opportunities for our teachers, and all of our students and our community benefit from the time that it takes me to make that happen.
Right, and we do it cross-discipline as well, because sometimes some of the grants that I have, you know, looking at professional development and what are the special educators need to have, it's also beneficial for the general educator to have. So then we look at, okay, how can we maximize training opportunities and meld these dollars? So we're constantly looking at that, but it takes a huge amount of time.
So rather than this discrete allocation, a more general.
Right.
And really, that's the goal of many of these mandates. They want you to make sure that you have the big picture, and that if you're going to accept their funds, you need to use them appropriately. You need to spread them across as many different groups of people as you can, and you need to make sure that you've used them effectively. So while it's frustrating to have to do all these reports, it certainly makes us as a group be very reflective about what we're doing and plan more long term. You know, we don't do these drive-by workshops. We really commit ourselves to, if this is our initiative, we're probably going to take 2 to 3 years to do this. We're going to have support for the teachers as it's going on, whether it's calling back the consultant, developing local capacity, which is a big thing that we tend to do, so we have a local expert to help us out on demand, more or less. And we pay attention. Are we doing the things? And I think when we look at what's coming, we see that we are really a district that is forward-thinking as far as that goes. A lot of the things that under Carol's leadership have been started are things that the state as a whole is really pushing forward, especially in the areas of professional development. So we want to keep that.
A good
Sorry?
piece. The keys to literacy, just using that as a piece, pulling all the threads together, is that a few years ago we did some data analysis training so that we can use data effectively. And then looking at our own data, where were the weaknesses that we're noticing in the curriculum, and how do we improve that, and then looking at what types of programs are out there and what do we need to put in place. And Gloria did all that legwork. And one of the initiatives this year, and I'll let you take it from there, is Keys to Literacy and how that's impacting all of our students, not special ed, not general ed, but all of our students. And we've seen significant progress in 1 year.
We take a $30,000 grant, and we train 2 people, and we take a little bit of money from the special education ARA grants to help support it, and then we take a little money out of the general fund to get the materials. We say, hey, we've got few extra teachers, can we sneak them into the class? And, we kind of call back our favors. And we support the teachers as they go through the process. And now this year we've made a real strong effort to see how has that impacted student learning. And we'll continue to follow that. I mean, 1 year it's a very small amount of time to see what the impact is. But when we look at the feedback from what our teachers are giving us and what we see in some of the assessment scoring that we're doing, we see it has had a positive impact. We want to build on that.
I obviously, given what I do, I see a lot of districts, and I've been one of the things this program has done for me has made clear how responsive the teachers in this district are to what the 3 of you are talking about. So it's not, oh, I have to, but there's a remarkable degree, remarkable in itself and remarkable comparison of other districts, collaborative spirit in the way the district operates, which, to get back to our basic issue today, makes the money even more well spent than whatever money. I've got a couple of other questions, but I'd rather ask, are there any areas in relation to our topic realities that any of the 3 of you want to make sure that we talk about today?
Well, I think we were talking this morning, and one of the things that came up was about the relationship aspect. And since you're bringing up about people working collaboratively together and so on and so forth, does it matter in terms of the student, the number of students and the teacher, the relationships between teachers, counselors, in the number of students that they have to see, or administrators, and the number of students that they have to interact with. And you know this, we're in the human business. And everything that we do is really about relationships. And it's so very, very important that that we pay attention to that. So it goes back to with professional development. Teachers who learn have students who learn. If you were trained 20 years ago and you've never had any professional development since then, and they're now presented with a diverse class, you don't know what to do, because you didn't have to do that 20 years ago. Our teachers have to have the support that they need to do the job. The job that they do, of course, you can imagine that I think is extremely important. And so I believe that the role of the 3 of us really is to provide that safety net for them, to give them what they need in order to be able to do the very challenging job we're asking them to do.
Safety net, you mean?
Well, so that they can, take a risk, try this new program.
Right. Okay, right.
We're not going to, put you on leave because, your scores weren't the perfect scores this year, but if you're working toward it and you're going in a direction, this is the way our train is going if you're on. And I just think, we know from all of, Judy often talks about the resiliency studies, that kids who have a relationship